Good evening and welcome. It's going to take a couple minutes for people to come in from the waiting room. And so we're just delighted that you're joining us for Making Sense of Spirit Signs. And this is such an exciting topic. We love talking about this. We're going to share some stories with you, but we're going to give you some tangible pieces that you can walk away from this evening to begin to listen and interpret some of what is showing up in your life already that you likely haven't had a chance to even pay attention to. So as we talk about making sense of spirit signs, it's really an opportunity for us to position in a particular way that helps us to start collecting the data points, the information, the signs that are already in our life. And we're going to do that in a couple of different ways. We're going to talk just generally about signs, and I think Annie, you're going to start us off by telling a story about signs, and then we're going to talk about our spiritual states map, and then we're going to have you go through a process. For those of you who don't know who we are, I'm Anne Marie Early with Annie Browning. We're co-founders of Common Awakening, and we really focus on how to bring spirituality back into our life. And we do that by beginning to use intuition, second sensing. We have a spiritual states model that helps to guide and to help us to interpret and to understand what some of these signs are. And our hope is just even after this short time together this evening, that you're going to walk away with some really practical tools, start to look at your life and to notice some of those signs that are happening, whether it's in the dream space or in your everyday experience. But Annie, I know you want to give your warm welcome and just to help us to begin to understand why this is so important.
Well, I echo a welcome. It's a delight to be with all of you and all of you on Facebook as well. Just to say that, Anne-Marie and I both come from more of a traditional Christian background. And, we heard a lot about signs of the spirit and how to even understand the signs that were happening in our own lives. But it was through that particular lens, and it was really formative for us. Part of us developing this model, which we'll show you in a minute, is because we wanted a more expanded understanding of how we can engage with the signs and the synchronicities in our life, not through a narrow lens of this is the interpretation and now, on we go, but something that's more interactional, like something that has some engagement to it. So we're really excited about this content and about the opportunity to be with you. So I'll start with a short story just about myself. And this happened, I think it's almost 7 years ago, and I really did not know what to do. I was completely flummoxed. I was living in a very urban environment at the time, and there were 6 red-tailed hawks, and they sat in our tree in our backyard, and they stayed for 10 days. And if you've ever been around red-tailed hawks, they're actually very loud. They were shrieking, and they would actually take mice and they would sit them by our front door. And once I got over the horror, I said, there's something going on here. And our neighbors came over and said, we think we should call animal control because of these hawks. And I said, no, something's going on, but I'm sure they're going to leave eventually. So about day 7 or so, I finally just went outside and I stood under this tree and I looked up at them, and all I could say, and I just started crying, and I even feel the tears now, was I said, I'm listening. I don't know what I'm listening for, but I'm listening and I'm listening. And I'll tell you, I thought maybe like I'd hear a voice in my ear, or maybe there would be a thunder and lightning clap, or maybe like something would just happen all of a sudden. And I'll tell you, it was like crickets. All I heard was them shrieking over and over again. But over time, what I began to realize was their message to me was opening me into a part of my spirituality that I had really forgotten about, that I had sort of left behind. I was working as a pastor at the time, and everything was just very rote and didactic. I was kind of going through the motions, and I was lacking that aliveness, really forgetting about some of the Christian mystics I had learned about and that I loved their stories. And all of that just started coming back. And I actually began to see colors, intuitively see colors. And again, I was a little freaked out, to be honest. But there's an example where it was a message. And if I would have, opened different texts or Googled or looked for an answer, I wasn't going to get that answer per se. I had to develop my own response that really came from a deeper place within. And I know, Anne-Marie, you have your own example as well.
Well, I never tire of hearing that story because these signs are so important at actually pointing us in the direction that we need to go in our life. And I know for you, Annie, in your own story, those hawks really led you down a path to say yes to living from this wiser way of really understanding how life is trying to guide us, how our soul is trying to guide us. And we use the word hits. Signs are really listening into something that gets our attention in a different way. And for me, I was a psychotherapist for many, many years. And I also, like Annie said, I come from the Christian tradition. And there was a way where kind of the stories of the Bible were kind of there and then. And to actually think about that maybe that we have those same capacities in the here and now didn't feel like something that was acceptable or something you could do a little bit of, but it's not something that you would navigate through life using that to guide you. And for me, being a psychotherapist, I had moments of intuition where I would hear things and know things and sense things, but I'd use my psychological lens to try to make sense of them and actually weave them into that. It didn't feel like it was okay just to use that kind of guidance in my life. And I remember numerous things. I could tell you about an accident that I had where I heard a voice, or times where I had phenomena show up. But the one that really was most significant, it really having me say yes to something different in my life and to begin to honor a kind of intuition, was three falls that happened. There were two of them, and they all of them created some sort of injury. So it was not a joyful experience. But by the third fall, I actually careened outside on the cement steps down to a lower level below. I actually landed face down on the concrete. And without even knowing what I was doing, I lifted my head up and I said out loud, and my kids were around me, I said, "Okay, you have my attention. I'm listening." And that yes within me was a yes to actually go and do my first energy session. The first time where I allowed myself to drop into a receptive state of awareness and to begin to listen in to these signs that were already present in my life and honor this wisdom that was beyond the mind. And it was life-changing for me. Not only did I get trained as an energy practitioner and begin to honor my intuition, I said yes, that I would start supporting people to return to the truth of what they are, no matter what religious tradition that they come from. There is a way that we can listen into these signs, these hits that show up, and have them not just be phenomena that surprises us and we let it go, but it actually becomes the guidance system that we use in our life. And what's important for you to know is that you have this within you as well. It is not just for special set apart people or for times in the past. It is for now, particularly in our world today, that there is an inner wisdom that each one of us can listen to that will help us to not only interpret and to know what is rising, but to have a guidance system that can show us the way forward for our life. And so we're going to talk to you a little bit. Some of you have taken our quiz, so you may know about our spiritual states map, but for some of you, this may be brand new. What we love about this map is it gives you a hands-on way of understanding what your primary spiritual state is. And what we're going to tell you already, the punchline is you likely are going to know what that state is once you see these different energies that are working in your life, because they're already present for you. We're just going to validate what is there. And we're going to teach you how to walk through it like a doorway to begin to follow the energy that will help you open more and more to something. We call it common awakening. We call it your second senses. It's not those first senses like your five senses. It's your second senses. It's this expanded way of knowing where you see, hear, know, and sense beyond what the mind understands. And it really does open you to spiritual signs in a profoundly different way. Well, there's so much more that I could say, Annie, but I think it's probably time for us to talk to people about what the spiritual states map is. We know on Facebook that you probably can't see this, so we've got a link for you to use. You can bring it up live, you can follow along with us, but we want to talk to you about our spiritual states map so that you have an idea of what these 4 positions are. And then we're going to have you go through a process where in live tonight, you begin to walk through that doorway and start to receive some signs by following energy pathways in your life. So I'll pass it off to you, Annie.
Perfect. So I just dropped a note into the chat feature where you can actually, follow along and see this diagram that we're going to be looking at. And I'm sharing it on my screen as well. And then I'll drop it into the Facebook chat as well in a second. So Amory, while I'm doing that, maybe you want to actually talk a little bit about the model and what we can expect as we actually apply it then to making sense of signs and synchronicities in our life.
Absolutely. So this is just kind of our introductory map. We have one that has a lot more detail on it, but just to keep it simple for this evening, there are 4 positions on our spiritual states map, and they talk about different energies that are moving in our life. And our goal, if you were to actually see our map, for those of you who can't see it, there are 4 positions, and I'll talk about each one of them. And in the very center of our model is something called the state of suspension. And what is different about this model is we're not just trying to find our place on the map and live from that. We're finding our primary awakening state as like an entrance point or a portal to enter in. But the goal is to actually live from all 4 of these states and to learn how to balance them. And we have a bunch of programs that support you in beginning to learn how to do this. But one of the most important first steps is just to know what your primary awakening state is. So if you are looking at this map and if you're looking at it live, you can follow along. The opener, and it would be at the top of the map, is somebody who tends to feel energy moving up through them and kind of out. They tend to have this clear seeing where they have a sense of kind of what's moving beyond what can be seen, what's coming forward, this sense of kind of having this broad expanse where you can see kind of the larger picture. If you were to move down to the right, you would see that there's something called the activator. And the activator is someone who tends to feel this forward movement like sparks. The way I feel it in my life, it's like lily pads. It's like things that are coming forward in the world, igniting possibilities. These are the people who are always pressing for what is new and feeling what wants to come forward in the world. Then down at the bottom of our map is something called the stabilizer position. And this is the people who tend to really find themselves in a more kind of grounded, kind of earthed position where they're really feeling into what is moving at a deeper level within, sometimes below the surface. And they often can feel the tangibles of what needs to come forward for movement to happen. And then if you were to move to the other side of our map, you would see something called the infuser. And this person really feels connections. They can get into a system and feel how all the different parts are connected. They often have kind of a fluid ability to kind of move with what is there. And often they find themselves as kind of that support connection, almost like a web between different disparate pieces. All 4 of these energies, again, are needed for balance in the spiritual life. And so there are ways for each one of us to be working to be able to honor and to allow these to come forward. But if you can find what is your primary awakening energy, the one that resonates the most for you and also is already being used in your life, what happens is you can use that energy to begin to enter into the spiritual signs that are showing up in your life in very tangible ways. And it's like a doorway that you can walk through. And so I'm going to see if Annie has anything more about this map that might be helpful, but then we're going to lead you pretty quickly into a practice because we want to show you just how real this is. If you use this map, you'll begin to step into some of these synchronicities, these signs, these guidance pieces that are already present and ready to show up in your life.
So I echo what Anne Marie said, that these are spiritual states. So these are spiritual energies that are in the world. And there's probably one or even two that resonate the most with you. And it likely has something to do with the spiritual sign that has appeared in your life, whether it was just today or years ago. It is likely kind of carrying you deeper into one of these states. And if we go at it from just more of an objective way, sometimes the actual phenomena we experience, I'll go back to the hawks. For me in particular, think about the hawks and the idea that hawks, fly, they move up, they move out. They often have a messenger kind of concept to them. All of that is very evocative of an opener energy. And it is no surprise that that's really the energy that I particularly connect with. I'm using that as an example, hopefully to already start to have your own wheels turning, even before we go into the process of how whatever is being delivered in your life might have a direct connection with one of these energies. Perhaps it's inviting you into that energy. Perhaps it's inviting you into another energy that might feel a little bit uncomfortable for you. This is where we can use this map as an interpretive guide. Once again, not to nail down an exact message per se, but to actually enter into a living conversation. So Anne Marie, let's actually practice this together. And as we practice, we're going to invite you just to become comfortable. We've been talking a lot, so you may wish to close your eyes if that's comfortable for you, or actually place your hands in your lap, simply to help your energy begin to drop and descend within you. And this process will really just be about 5 minutes or so. So it's not a long process. As we begin, once again, note which of the 4 states resonated the most for you. And I'll scroll back if you have your eyes open just to look at them once again, but actually feel it. Feel it in the body. Use your intuition to connect with the qualities of this state. Do you feel more of the opener state, that direct, clear, moving beyond, up and out? More of that activator state, igniting, energizing, moving forward. The stabilizer state, rooted, solid, moving deeper. The infuser state, fluid, connected, moving together. As you hear these 4 states, once again, land on which one pings, resonates, lights up, connects with you. And then pause. And Anne Marie is going to guide us into activating and engaging with that state a bit more, which is our second step of the process.
So as you stay with that energy, you're going to feel an energy movement and allow it to begin to guide you and to open you. And even if you haven't landed on which one could be your primary awakening state, simply see as we do this next part of the process, what you begin to notice within you. So bring awareness to your primary awakening state. And even if you don't know, just follow the energy. If you tend to be more of an opener, that up and out energy, focus your energy upward, literally feeling that movement of rising, as if an energy was moving through the channel of your body upward, and allow it to grow and to begin to carry you even further up and out. And notice. If you tend to be more of a stabilizer, that more rooted, grounded energy, feeling the tangibles in the world, feel the energy moving down through your system. Go downward within and notice how it carries you deeper and earths you in. If you tend to be more of an infuser, that connecting, feeling that fluidness within, actually focus your energy backward, as if you were almost moving back in your energy field or resting in an easy chair moving backwards, Just feel that energy in this moment. And if you tend to be an activator with that igniting, sparking energy, focus your energy forward, just noticing almost like there's a pull out in front of you that you're beginning to follow. Once again, whatever you may imagine is your primary awakening state, just feel that energy movement, an opener up, stabilizer down, activator feeling forward, and that infuser moving backward. And then we're going to take a next step, and Annie is going to walk us into staying in that energy position in your energy field and beginning to allow signs to come forward.
So as you are bringing focus to a particular state, you may lean into it or intensify your focus just a bit. And then take a few deep breaths. Invite a sign or symbol or a serendipity or a dream that has come forward in your life and bring it into your awareness. And stay in that state. Once again, perhaps it's up or down or back or forward. And then follow and allow whatever that sign or symbol is that has appeared in your life to come forward in your awareness and pause. And now engage your intuition. You can always put a hand over your navel if that's supportive for you. And then notice what you feel in your body. And what do you see intuitively? What do you feel intuitively? What do you hear? What do you know? You are engaging and connecting and interpreting whatever sign has come forward in your life from that awakened state. Once again, notice what you feel, what you hear, what you sense, what you know. And you may get a flash or a symbol, a sensation. You may feel silence. Allow whatever has come forward to be a facet of interpretation for you. Allow it to rise and stay with it. And then if you're comfortable, you can imagine or feel or sense that you are holding whatever you have received in your palms with openness, allowing whatever has emerged to be as it is. And then you may wish to take your palms and place it over your heart as you are bringing whatever you have received within you. And then take a few deep breaths of gratitude. And I'm here to say that illumination or awareness often comes in pieces. We get facets of the whole. We get parts that are delivered to us. Whatever has arrived for you, let it be as it is. And once again, breathe with gratitude. So Anne-Marie, anything else you would say about our three-step process, even naming the steps again, before we want to have just a few minutes for any questions that may have come forward?
Well, just a couple of pointers that feel really significant is when you're working with signs, it's to dismiss nothing. And so part of the way of beginning to trust your second senses and say yes to really listening into these spiritual signs is to dismiss nothing, to learn how to take all the phenomena that shows up and how to take the next step with it. And we're not talking about that tonight, but just to say you can go to the Common Awakening website. We have free courses. You can join us on some of these free calls, but we are really committed to teaching you how to begin to open up into your second senses and to begin to work with these signs that are showing up in your life. And I know one of the questions that was chatted in earlier to us is, how do I know that it's actually a sign and it's not just my mind making it up? And that's a question we get so often. And we've certainly had that in our own life as well. And just to say, this is really that piece where we accept whatever's coming and we don't take it as necessarily like gospel truth. We take it as the next step. And we really teach you at Common Awakening how to move with the guidance that is coming and follow it moment by moment and step by step. And what happens is it begins to show up more and more. And just like you have a primary awakening state, you often have one of the senses of seeing, hearing, knowing, and sensing that is a primary sense. And as you develop that, your other sense awarenesses will begin to grow over time. I know there was a couple of other questions. We don't have a lot of time, Annie. I don't know if you want to bring those forward. I have two more. Maybe we can get to maybe one or two.
One question that came in was about sort of what to do with silence or if it feels like nothing's happening. And our minds are sort of what categorize nothing, says there's nothing happening, there's nothing here, because that's the mind tends to look for something that's more concrete, something's more form, something that you can track. So if when you're sort of playing with these signs and symbols, if you feel like there's nothing there, we talk a lot about staying with the nothing, following the breath, using grounding tools to stay connected and present, and to tolerate that feeling of nothing. Often when we're in that place of nothing, then it's when our mind actually goes offline and we can start to track intuitively what the something is that's starting to come forward. And we've been practicing and we are still practicing and we will still be practicing because it's a lifelong journey of practicing how to use the wise mind and also connect in with the intuitive soul, which is really where we engage with these signs and symbols in a very poignant way.
And you're really pointing us to it's about our position. And it's so important to realize that where we are placed within ourselves is what either closes the terrain down or opens it up. And so getting some support to be able to take your next steps is really, really important. And so many people just dismiss that they have these capacities. You have the ability to listen in to the signs in your life and to begin to use them, not just in the mystical, but in the every day of your life. It truly is a way of positioning and beginning to listen to guidance that becomes your navigation. And I hope you can hear that we are passionate about helping you find how to do that. Just some pieces to kind of point you towards as we end our time this evening is we had a handout. If you weren't able to see that, you're welcome to use the link and be able to have that as a reference to guide you as you go. We have a spiritual states quiz. If you go to common.awakening.com, where you can take our quiz and see what your primary awakening state is. We also have a second sense package that can help you to begin to develop your sense awareness. We've got a lot of different free resources, just if you want to dabble around and begin to play. But to know that we're here to support you, to help you to learn how to really live in balance using our spiritual states model so that it becomes something that helps you to live in this state of suspension, this place that accesses us to the fullness, really to the truth of what we are. I'll let you close us for our time this evening, Annie.
Absolutely. And just to say that if especially for those on Facebook, if you're not part of our listserv, when you click on that link, you have the opportunity to sign up. We don't spam you. We don't sell info. We really delight in getting to know you. We send a weekly email that has a lot of really rich and valuable content that can support you in your awakening journey. And it's an opportunity to get to know us and to connect more. So let's close with honoring the space that we've been in together and with gratitude for each and every one of you who are joining and all of you who watch later. May there be a yes within you to continue to accept and follow the signs that are abundant around you, to notice even in the coming days what starts to pop up in your awareness, what is calling to you, and then to have the yes within you to take that step forward, to engage with the delightful conversation of connecting with your signs and hearing, knowing, seeing, and feeling what they have to say. Thank you for being with us. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. We look forward to connecting again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.